Makes sense. Let's go back to the climate issue you just raised. If we go a bit more broad at the start, if you look at the sort of take the energy market and the energy consumption, and if we base it on the fact that the energy demand is gonna slowly compound in the future as well, because you want a prosperous world, right? What do you think is sort of the biggest misunderstanding of the energy market in general? And then we can dive into, of course, your specific company and industry.
So by now you understand that I'm a super ecological guy. So I drive an electrical car. My house is completely autonomous. It's passive. It's the second house that I built, which is completely passive. And I'm not a big consumer, in fact. I believe that we consume way too much into this world, and I hate to waste anything. If you want to find a solution for this planet, you need to transit to a completely different type of model and completely different type of society. Nevertheless, we need to agree that society at large has made significant progress to get people out of poverty and to provide relatively good healthcare system. Everything is relative. You may have a better healthcare system in Switzerland than in Ethiopia, but if you look at where they started, everything is going in the right direction. That requires a lot of energy. At the moment, the energy is provided by the fossils, and it was something that we discovered, well, a long time ago when it comes to coal, in 19th century when it comes to oil, and obviously we've seen different revolutions in the energy world that meant that we could develop the world in the way we've seen this fantastic development for human beings. Now we have reached a point where we realize that there is a huge problem in doing that. It's the release of greenhouse gas. It's not only CO2, it's greenhouse gas, and there are probably 6 major greenhouse gases. CO2 being the biggest, but not the most harmful. The way we see things, and certainly the way I see things as a human being, is that we need to accelerate whatever technology can help us to provide the energy that is required in a green way. But I don't believe that you can tell people overnight, you know what, we're going to switch off the lights, we're going to stop all the cars, and then in 10 years, 15, 20 years, we're going to go back to the world that we are living in because there will be sufficient renewable energies available because we would have built all of that. So that's not really a model that can be accepted by society. So you need a transition. And the transition means that you are using the energy and probably the capital that this energy is providing you to invest and develop the infrastructure of tomorrow. And that transition, even if you are super ambitious, will take 30 or 40 years. And in 40 years, we will probably continue to consume oil, but the way we consume oil is going to be different, and probably we're going to be able to capture the CO2, etc., etc. But the vast majority will be provided by electrons instead of molecules. So by renewable energy providing electricity rather than just physical molecules or burning basically a fossil fuel. So as far as Euronav is concerned, people will tell me, well, then you are embarked in a business that is dying. You know, first of all, everything needs to die one day, but I don't believe the business itself will die. I believe that the business will evolve. But what is very, very important is not to abandon the business too quickly. So I see a lot of investors who say, well, I cannot invest in fossil fuel anymore. I said, this is a mistake. What you need to do is to invest in the companies that clearly demonstrate that they are helping the transition, that are accelerating the transition, that are serious about the transition. They're not hypocrites trying to kick the can down the road, trying to say, yeah, but we must wait for this or we must wait for that. No, they're concretely doing and taking actions that are helping the transition. Now, I think that if people in general and investors in particular understand that they need to back the champions of the transition, even though at the moment they are only involved in a fossil fuel industry, that is probably the best way to shorten the transition, to make it less chaotic, and to make it cheaper. Today, we are in the first energy crisis that is, in my opinion, set by the energy transition. There's been underinvestment in so many fields that are providing the energy today that obviously the markets are going up. When you don't have enough supply and you have a growing demand, then obviously prices are going to go through the roof. Look at what is happening on the gas price. That's a very good example. Look at what's happening on the oil price. I mean, we are now at 85. A year ago, we were less than half of where we are today. So if that's what we want to do, that's perfect. But believe me, the transition will be longer, transition will be more chaotic, and the transition will cost a lot of money. And we need all that money to be applied to the transition and to the new methods of producing energy that we.
Looking at Euronav, I think you have said that you're bullish on hydrogen and ammonia, but it takes time. Can you just quickly explain why you're bullish on those types of solutions compared to maybe LNG? I think it's maybe hard to be very short in the answer because it's complicated, because maybe on one side on the equation, it seems good in a green world, but then you sort of forget maybe the infrastructure piece as well. But maybe just kind of to give people a quick understanding in your thinking, because obviously there's no easy answer that everyone agrees on today, but it's kind of like you need to develop the technology as well.
But I mean, it's very true. It's difficult to make a simple answer. But first of all, I think that you have two choices in your life. You have to cater for your own business and your own business only and say, I'm responsible for that bit and therefore I don't care about the rest. Or you can be a little bit more realistic as a human being, and you can look at what we call the well, which is where you find the fossil fuel or where you create the molecules of hydrogen, to the wake. The wake is what the ship is making when it navigates in the seas. And if you look at the complete life cycle of that, you will see that the CO2 reductions with gas can be as high as 25, potentially 30%. But unfortunately, that supply chain of gas has a lot of leaks. And because the methane is very, very bad for the environment, 80 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than CO2, every time you leak a bit, well, you have leaked 80 times more than the CO2. So from that perspective, it's the reason why we're not against LNG, certainly not, but we are just saying, watch out for not creating a problem by trying to solve another problem. Ultimately, the reason why people don't embark on hydrogen or ammonia, and by the way, it's not going to be hydrogen, it's going to be ammonia, and ammonia simply because it's a carrier for hydrogen, so it remains hydrogen, but it's just being carried in another molecule. The reason why people look at it is because it's a true zero emission fuel, as long as it is produced with renewable energy. And the renewable energy needs to expand, and we need to invest a lot more so that we can produce the green hydrogen, which in turn will produce the green ammonia. We have signed joint development program with a number of people so that we can accelerate the development of the ammonia engine, and we believe that the ammonia engine can be ready in 2025. The moment it exists and the moment it's safe, because ammonia is a toxic product, so you need to take a lot of precautions in order to handle it properly. But the moment it's ready, I think that people should only buy those ships. But that's 4 or 5 years down the road. And in the meantime, if you have to order a ship, then it's probably better to either order a conventional ship that can be retrofitted, that can be changed later on, or indeed to order an LNG ship, because today the CO2 will be reduced. And if you source your methane in places where people care about the leaks, then it's probably better than the conventional ship